What happens when two powerhouse voices collide in the most uncomfortable television moment of the year? What you're about to witness is the exact moment everything went wrong between Teddy Swims and Kelly Clarkson, leading to one of the most shocking walk-offs in daytime television history. The studio lights were blazing as Kelly Clarkson settled into her signature chair, her million-dollar smile firmly in place as she prepared to welcome her next guest. Across from her, Teddy Swims adjusted his position on the plush interview couch, his tattooed hands fidgeting slightly with the microphone clipped to his shirt. The audience buzzed with excitement, completely unaware they were about to witness television history in the making. "So, Teddy," Kelly began warmly, "your rise to fame has been absolutely incredible. From posting covers in your bedroom to selling out arenas. It's like a fairy tale come true." Teddy's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, though his smile remained. "Well, Kelly, I appreciate that, but I wouldn't exactly call it a fairy tale. There's been a lot of hard work, a lot of rejection, and a lot of people who didn't believe in what I was doing." "Absolutely," Kelly nodded enthusiastically. "But that's what makes it so inspiring. You went from being this unknown guy to having millions of views almost overnight. It must feel amazing to finally get the recognition you deserve." The word "finally" seemed to hang in the air like a loaded weapon. Teddy's smile faltered before he composed himself. "I mean, I've been doing this for over a decade." "Kelly, it wasn't overnight, and it wasn't about getting recognition I deserved. It was about staying true to my art, regardless of whether anyone was paying attention." Kelly's laugh tinkled through the studio speakers, though something about it seemed forced. "Right, of course. But you have to admit, social media really changed everything for you. Without platforms like TikTok and Instagram, would we even know who Teddy Swims is?" The question hit like a slap. Teddy's posture straightened, his calm demeanor beginning to crack. "Are you suggesting that my success is just because of social media algorithms?" "No, not at all," Kelly said quickly, though her tone suggested otherwise. "I'm just saying social media gave you a platform that maybe traditional routes didn't. I mean, let's be honest. The music industry can be tough for artists who don't fit the typical mold." "What mold would that be exactly?" Teddy asked, his voice dropping to a lower register, a warning sign for those who knew him. "You know," Kelly said with a nervous laugh, "the whole tattooed, bearded, soulful guy thing. It's very trendy right now, very authentic feeling, even if it's carefully crafted for social media consumption." The audience sensed something was off. The usual chatter faded into an uncomfortable silence. Even the camera operators tensed behind their equipment. "Carefully crafted?" Teddy repeated softly, his tone heavy with controlled anger. "Kelly, these tattoos aren't a marketing strategy. This beard isn't a brand choice. This is who I am. And I've been this person long before anyone cared about authenticity." Kelly's smile tightened as she glanced toward her producers. "Of course, Teddy. I didn't mean to imply otherwise. I think what our viewers would love to know is how you maintain that authentic connection with your fans while managing the pressures of sudden fame." "Sudden fame?" Teddy shook his head. "You keep using words like that. Like I just appeared out of thin air with a guitar and a dream. Do you have any idea how many dive bars I played for audiences of 5 people? How many times I was told my voice was too soulful for country, too R&B for rock?" "I'm sure it was challenging," Kelly said diplomatically, trying to steer the conversation away from the tension. "Speaking of your voice, let's talk about your latest album. The production is so polished compared to those early bedroom recordings. It must be nice working with a real team of professionals." That was the final straw. Teddy's eyes flashed dangerously, and the temperature in the studio seemed to drop. "A real team of professionals, as opposed to what, Kelly? The fake amateurs I worked with before?" Kelly's face paled slightly. "I just meant that having access to proper studios and experienced producers must have elevated your sound." There's nothing wrong with getting help to reach your full potential. Help to reach my full potential? Teddy repeated, frustration dripping from every word. Let me ask you something, Kelly. When you won American Idol, did people tell you Simon Cowell and the production team helped you reach your potential? Or did they recognize that the talent was already there? The comparison caught Kelly off guard, and for the first time, she seemed genuinely flustered. That's different. Teddy, American Idol is a competition show. It's designed to find and showcase existing talent. And what do you think I was doing in those dive bars and bedroom recordings, playing hide-and-seek? Teddy's voice rose. I was showcasing my talent to anyone who would listen. Years before any algorithm or professional team or fairy tale narrative you want to romanticize. Kelly's media training kicked in as she tried to regain control. Teddy, I think there's a misunderstanding. I have nothing but respect for your journey and your talent. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot. No, Kelly, Teddy interrupted sharply. We got off on exactly the foot you intended. You brought me here thinking you could package my story into some feel-good segment about social media, success, and professional polish without understanding what that story actually is. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Camera operators exchanged worried glances. Audience members shifted uneasily in their seats. Kelly Clarkson, known for her charm and composure, looked completely out of her depth. I think what our audience would really benefit from, she said finally, her voice shaky, is hearing about your creative process and how you choose which songs to record. Teddy let out a sharp laugh. My creative process? You really want to go there? There was no humor in it, Teddy said firmly. My creative process is taking every rejection, every dismissal, every person who looked at me and decided I didn't fit their idea of what a musician should look like, and turning that pain into something beautiful. My creative process is being authentic in a world that's constantly trying to sell you a version of authenticity. Kelly's face was flushed now, and she was clearly struggling to maintain her composure. Teddy, I understand you're passionate about your music, she said carefully, but I think you might be misinterpreting my questions. Am I? Teddy leaned forward, locking eyes with her. Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you think my success is some combination of lucky timing, social media manipulation, and professional intervention. It sounds like you can't quite believe that someone who looks like me, with my background, could actually have something real to offer. The studio had gone completely silent, except for the low hum of equipment and the occasional nervous cough from the audience. This was no longer an interview. It was a confrontation, and everyone knew they were witnessing something unprecedented. Kelly's face hardened, the mask of television professionalism slipping away. Teddy, I think you're being unfair. I've interviewed hundreds of artists, and I've always been supportive of different paths to success. Supportive? Teddy's voice was incredulous. Kelly, in the last 10 minutes, you've implied that my success is accidental. My authenticity is manufactured, my early work was amateur, and my talent needed professional intervention to be worthwhile. If that's your idea of supportive, I'd hate to see what you consider hostile. The audience sat frozen, hanging on every word. A few people pulled out their phones, sensing they were witnessing something that would trend for weeks. Producers frantically gestured from behind the cameras, but neither Kelly nor Teddy noticed. They were locked in a standoff. Kelly's voice sharpened. I'm trying to have a conversation about your career trajectory. Teddy, if you're going to take every question as a personal attack, maybe you're not ready for this level of media attention. The words detonated like a bomb. Teddy's eyes widened, and several audience members gasped. Even the camera operators seemed to flinch. Not ready for this level of media attention? Teddy repeated slowly, his voice dangerously calm. Let me get this straight. You think I'm not ready because I won't sit here and let you diminish everything I've worked for? Kelly seemed to realize she'd crossed a line, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. I think artists who want to succeed at this level need to be able to handle tough questions and different perspectives without getting defensive. Tough questions? Teddy stood up, towering over the set. Kelly, asking me about my music, my influences, my writing process, those would be tough questions. What you've been doing is trying to rewrite my story to fit whatever narrative makes you comfortable. Kelly remained seated, but her posture was rigid. I'm trying to help our viewers understand your journey, Teddy. Sometimes that means asking questions you might not want to hear. Help our viewers understand? Teddy laughed bitterly. Or help yourself understand how someone like me could succeed without going through the same system that validated you? The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Kelly's face shifted from shock to anger to something close to panic. That's completely out of line. Teddy, is it? Teddy began pacing, his hands gesturing emphatically. Because, from where I stand, it seems like you can't wrap your head around the fact that there are artists who didn't need a television competition, who didn't need industry gatekeepers, who didn't need permission from people like you to make music that matters. Kelly's voice rose to meet his. People like me? What's that supposed to mean? It means people who think success has to look a certain way, come through certain channels, be approved by certain institutions, Teddy shot back. People so invested in their version of how things should work that they can't recognize talent when it doesn't fit their predetermined mold. The studio was electric with tension. Audience members shifted uncomfortably. Some looked toward the exits, others leaned forward, unable to look away. The show's band members, usually relaxed and smiling, now sat frozen at attention. Kelly's composure was unraveling. You know what, Teddy? She snapped. I've been doing this show for years. I've made artists feel welcome. I've celebrated their success. I've given them a platform to share their stories. If you can't appreciate that, maybe the problem isn't with my questions. Make artists feel welcome? Teddy stopped pacing and turned toward her, eyes blazing. Kelly, you've spent this entire interview trying to convince me, and everyone watching, that my success is somehow illegitimate, that my authenticity is fake, that my talent isn't real without professional polish. If that's your idea of making someone feel welcome, I'd hate to see how you treat your enemies. Kelly shot to her feet, finally abandoning any pretense of control. You're putting words in my mouth, Teddy. I never said any of those things. You didn't have to say them directly, Teddy snapped. Every question was designed to undermine something. Every comment was loaded with the assumption that I'm less legitimate than artists who came up through traditional channels. That's paranoid and ridiculous. Kelly's voice echoed through the studio. I ask similar questions to all my guests about their journeys and their processes. Do you? Teddy challenged, eyes blazing. Do you ask Taylor Swift if her success is just because of social media algorithms? Do you ask John Legend if his early work was too amateur before professional producers got involved? Do you ask any of your mainstream pop guests if they're not ready for media attention when they push back? Kelly's mouth opened and closed before she found her voice. That's not a fair comparison, and you know it. Why isn't it fair, Kelly? Teddy demanded. Because they fit your idea of what a successful artist looks like? Because their path to success makes sense to you in a way that mine doesn't? The producers were gesturing frantically now, but neither of them moved. The audience was witnessing a total breakdown of the polished world of daytime television. Kelly's voice trembled with fury. Now you're being incredibly unprofessional, Teddy. This is supposed to be a celebration of your success, not an attack on my integrity as a host. Unprofessional? Teddy's voice dropped to a low growl. Kelly, You've spent the last 20 minutes systematically attacking everything about my career, my authenticity, and my readiness for success. And you want to talk to me about professionalism? I have not attacked anything, Kelly insisted weakly. I've asked legitimate questions about your career. Legitimate questions? Teddy scoffed. Like whether I'm just a social media creation? Like whether my music needed professional intervention to be worthwhile? Like whether I'm ready for this level of attention? His voice grew louder with each accusation. Kelly's face was bright red now, caught between embarrassment and anger. You're twisting everything I said. Am I? Teddy turned to the audience, gesturing toward them. Because I think everyone in this room heard exactly what you said, and how you said it. Kelly looked around desperately, searching for validation, but was met only with uneasy faces and averted eyes. Even her own production team seemed frozen. The crew members were beginning to quietly distance themselves from the situation, uncertain of what to do. This is my show, Teddy, Kelly said finally, her voice tight with control. I've been nothing but welcoming and supportive. And if you can't see that, maybe you should reconsider whether you want to be here. The ultimatum hung in the air like a challenge. Teddy stared at her for a long moment, his chest rising and falling with steady, controlled breaths. The studio was so quiet that the hum of the air conditioning seemed deafening. You know what, Kelly? Teddy said at last, his voice eerily calm after the storm that had just unfolded. Maybe I should reconsider. The words landed like a death sentence for the interview. Kelly's eyes widened as she realized what was happening, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. Teddy, don't be dramatic. We can work through this. Work through what, Kelly? Your complete inability to respect what I've accomplished? Your need to tear down my story so it fits your comfortable narrative? Teddy began unhooking his microphone with deliberate, measured movements. There's nothing to work through here. Kelly's voice turned desperate, finally grasping the gravity of what was unfolding. Teddy, please. You're misunderstanding my intentions. I brought you here because I believe in your talent. Teddy paused, holding the microphone in his hand, and looked at her with something between pity and disgust. You brought me here because I'm trending, Kelly. You booked me because it would get you views and social media buzz. Don't confuse that with believing in my talent. That's not true, Kelly protested, but her voice lacked conviction. I genuinely wanted to share your story with my audience. My story? Teddy's laugh was hollow. Kelly, you haven't asked me a single question about my actual story. You didn't ask about the music that saved my life, the fans who supported me before anyone knew my name, the struggles that shaped every song I've ever written. You've been too busy trying to figure out how to diminish what I've built. The studio audience was transfixed, watching the unprecedented moment unfold. Some were still recording on their phones. Others sat frozen in shock. Even the band members looked like they were witnessing a natural disaster in real time. Kelly's composure was crumbling. I don't understand why you're being so hostile, she said, her voice trembling. I've always been supportive of artists from all backgrounds. Backgrounds? Teddy's voice was sharp as a blade. Kelly, you've made it crystal clear that you don't consider my background legitimate. Every question you've asked has been designed to explain away my success rather than celebrate it. I never said your background wasn't legitimate, Kelly shot back, though even she seemed to hear how weak it sounded. You didn't have to say it, Teddy replied, finally freeing the microphone from his shirt. When you suggest that social media is the only reason people know who I am, you're saying my music isn't good enough to stand on its own. When you imply that my early work needed professional polish to be worthwhile, you're saying I wasn't talented enough without help. And when you question whether I'm ready for media attention, you're saying I don't belong at this level. Kelly looked around desperately, as if hoping someone, anyone, would intervene. But the production team was frozen in place. Teddy, I think you're reading too much into casual interview questions, she said weakly. Casual? Teddy's voice cracked with disbelief. Kelly, there was nothing casual about this. Every question was loaded. Every comment was meant to undermine. This wasn't an interview. It was an interrogation. The silence that followed was deafening. Kelly seemed to be fighting an internal battle, her face cycling through disbelief, anger, and shame. Then, suddenly, she spoke, grasping for control. You know what, Teddy? Maybe this reaction is exactly why some people in the industry have concerns about working with you. Maybe this attitude is why you had to build your career outside traditional channels. The accusation hit the studio like a thunderclap. Several audience members gasped audibly. Even the camera operators seemed to recoil. Teddy went completely still, his expression darkening with an emotion deeper than anger. There it is, he said quietly, his voice cutting through the silence like a whisper in a cathedral. There's the real Kelly Clarkson, not the supportive host, not the champion of artists, but someone who thinks that questioning her narrative means there's something wrong with me. Kelly's face went pale. She realized instantly that she had made a catastrophic mistake. Teddy, I didn't mean that, the way it sounded. Yes, you did, Teddy said with absolute certainty. You meant it exactly the way it sounded. You think that because I won't sit here and let you rewrite my story, because I won't pretend your dismissive questions are supportive, there must be something wrong with me. You think the problem is with me, not with your complete inability to understand or respect what I represent. Kelly's voice was barely above a whisper now. That's not what I think. Isn't it? Teddy challenged. Because you just suggested that my reaction to your disrespect proves the industry was right to overlook me. You just validated every gatekeeper who told me I wasn't good enough. Every executive who said I didn't fit. Every person who made me feel like I had to prove my worth. The studio was completely silent except for the mechanical hum of equipment. Kelly looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. The audience was holding its collective breath, afraid that any sound might shatter the moment. Teddy held up the microphone he'd just removed, staring at it like it was something contaminated. You know what the most insulting part of all this is, Kelly? I actually respected you. I thought you were different. You came from a competition show. You know what it's like to have your talent questioned. But you're just another industry insider who can't see past your own limited perspective. Teddy, please. Kelly's voice was breaking now. I made mistakes in this interview. Let me make it right. Make it right? Teddy shook his head slowly. Kelly, you can't unmake the last 30 minutes. You can't unsay the things you said, or unthink the thoughts that led you to say them. This interview has shown me exactly who you are, and exactly what you think of artists like me. He placed the microphone on the side table beside his chair with deliberate care, as if it were made of glass. I came here thinking I was going to have a real conversation with someone who understood the struggle, who appreciated the journey. Instead, I got ambushed by someone who thinks my success is a fluke, and my authenticity is a marketing strategy. Kelly was openly desperate now, her media polish completely gone. Teddy, I swear that's not what I think. Please don't leave like this. Teddy looked at her for a long, lingering moment, and when he finally spoke, his voice was sad rather than angry. Kelly, the tragedy here isn't that you think these things about me. The tragedy is that you probably think these things about a lot of artists who don't fit your narrow definition of legitimacy.